There we go. Okay. Confusing. All right, so we're live. Hi, everybody. We're here tonight looking at the Qubit Chord V2. I just got this in very recently. The person I bought it from was kind enough to include both colors of nameplates, which is great because I'm rapidly seeming to be getting into a scenario where I'm mostly silver. It'd be nice to have everything matching, maybe one day. Anyway, so yeah, the chord is the replacement for the telharmonic that I used to have. I found that the telharmonic was starting to get too manual divey. I had to look into the manual all the time to remember what I was doing with it. Just generally got frustrating. I'm sure a lot of you know how make noise modules can be. Sometimes they're a little esoteric. If you don't do a good job of remembering things like I don't, then they can be tough. So I decided to go with the chord instead because it still serves a similar purpose from what I was using the telharmonic for, which is to generate chords that are in a key relatively easily, but a little bit more user-friendly, I think, with the expense of it being maybe not quite as broad of a palette, but it is wave shaper, or it does have a like a bank of waves that you can load from the SD card. And the guy who got this initially and sold it to me has already loaded it with some interesting ones, supposedly. I haven't really played around with this yet, so again, we're doing just like the Odessa the other week. We'll do that sort of relatively from scratch. I know a little more about this module than I did the Odessa, so. But let's get to it. Let's make this make some noise. So it's got outputs for root, third, fifth, seventh, and the mix, which is nice. For now, let's just listen to the mix because we'll get into the more complex bits later. Because you can use this as a very, very polyphonic oscillator. So that's loud. So in its very most basic of form, you have banks of different waves. And then you have a waveform that you can morph between in here. Let's find a good one to just like filtered, it seems like. But I guess handy, you can use that as a filter. I think this was nice as a very simple, mostly sine wave waveform, because you all know how much I love sine waves. Okay. So that's the actual wave thing. The tuning, I think I've already done. I think it's nice and tuned. There is an FM input if you so desire. Then there's voicing and quality. Voicing is kind of what you'd expect from something like this. It switches inversions. So. Quality, you can see the LEDs along the top here. It's the chord quality, so I can go major, minor, dominant, diminished. I don't remember what this is for, but I think it indicates something different. Someone with music theory can chime in here. You got the really classic sounding organ thing of going. So that's the really basics of this, and then of course you can send volt per octave into this to choose the root. You can send another CV signal into the quality to choose the type of chord. This is this really basic version of what it does, but because I like that there's a button you can push for harm. Makes me laugh. This is actually a cool feature that makes it sort of like the tail harmonic in that it does this, they call it auto harmonization and quantization. So it's going to take the volt per octave that comes in and it's going to quantize it to a certain scale, and it also adjusts the chord quality to stay inside of the key, which is pretty much like what tail harmonic did, but with not, instead of having to look in the manual and figuring out what color means what quality, it's right there. So let's just do that. I'm gonna just really quick hook up a single slider from Stages. Let's take just one of these. Yep. So that I have a voltage control that I can use. You can't really see the light on it, but yeah, there you go. So we'll take that back over here. In order to put this in the right mode, when that harm is unlit, when there's no harm, it's disabled and there's no quantization at all done. And then you can either put it in major or minor mode. So let's try major mode first. That's where this is in blue. So conceivably, should be able to drop volt per octave in here, and let's see what this does. Too sensitive. Let's put this quickly through a attenuator. Alright. Now as we increase this, let's see. Perfect. That's like, this is a C. That is the C chord progression thing, right? Major, minor, major, dominant, minor, diminished, I think, and then major. Let's try it in minor mode now. No, stay there, triad. We'll talk about triad afterwards. Sorry, I better make sure I'm paying attention to chat here too. There's no one around anyway. Okay. Yeah, so now we can put this into minor mode, which is green. And same thing. Slowly. The only thing that they note is that the minor scale has a dominant fifth instead of a minor fifth, which would be this. So it's slightly different. Someone with more music theory knowledge than me can tell me what that means. I think it makes it slightly different for some. Anyway, dominant obviously makes it different, but I think it makes a different scale or something. But anyway, really that's what the tail harmonic did in a lot of ways. And then you can turn it off, and now it's back to completely unquantized. Which is actually kind of an interesting effect. Sounds like you could make the THX sound or something like that with that. Anyway, so that's the harm button, which is my favorite part of this so far. Triad is pretty basic. Triad only has an on and off, and it's because right now you probably hear this is just a major chord, right? This is a C major. But if you turn on triad, or turn off triad, you get the seventh as well. And you also notice if you listen, it turns up the volume, so. Subtle, but it's nice that it compensates for it. So if you want a seventh chord, you can turn off triad. I don't think there is, unfortunately, a way of toggling that by a CV or anything like that, but oh well. Now the reason that there is that triad thing, not only because you don't always want sevenths all the way through all this, what does it do in the case of this? Not just everything becomes a seventh, okay. Anyway, but the reason to have the triad button turned on, which makes it a triad, is because there's this mode button up at the top, and this is the other interesting part of this module, and what makes it like really, really polyphonic, which is pretty cool. So when it's there, you might have noticed that there's an extra jack down here that's called a lead. The reason for this is that you can take the seventh out of the chord, so remove that, but then you can actually use it sequenced separately with its own volt per octave input to have a melody that's also automatically quantized to be in tune with the key, which is cool. And on top of that, so there's that melody mode, and you can also make this either free or unison polyphonic, which means in free polyphonic mode, all the voices are completely independent. You can tune them independently. They have no relation to one another. In unison polyphonic, they're all tuned by these master frequency knobs, but you can also send in volt per octave individually to each of them. So essentially means you can have up to 4 notes of polyphony with this one module, and either keep it in key with a chord or not, depending on what you want to do. So let's try out some of these things. We're gonna need a little sequence, and let's leave this in the major harmonic mode so it keeps everything sounding nice and not all over the place. So let's go back to stages, and let's use stages to make ourselves a quick little sequence. Maybe we'll make a 4-step sequence here. So 4 steps, and we'll just pick random values for now. Let's see how that goes, and then I'll just put a really simple clock in. Let's just use marbles. Clock that. Let's see if we can get a real, turn off the, definitely don't want it to slew between steps here. Let's get like a 1, 3, 5, so that'd be, something that makes sense anyway. Hi Vincent, you love your chord, me too. Haven't tried this with chord, check out Wave Edit software. Yes, the guy who sold me this was telling me about Wave Edit and that I need to give this a shot to try out a whole bunch of different waveforms or try making my own and stuff like that. So it's on my list of things to do. I don't have a huge amount of familiarity with this like wavetable synthesis stuff, so I'll have to learn more about that. Alright, so now that we got a cool, simple enough sequence going, let's make sure we get this in the right mode. So right now, with the mode thing here being unlit, that lead jack's disabled. If we turn it on to blue mode, now it's in this melody mode, where the 7th is completely separately controllable. So, you sequence this via sending CV into the lead jack. So, let's just take marbles, since it's already going to be sending us randomness, and I can also see it right here. We'll take marbles, and we'll take one of its X outputs in relatively unquantized mode, just to prove that this does what you'd think it would. let's see what we get here. I think I've done something wrong here. Let's see, what have I got going on? Oh, you know what? Of course, it's going to come out on a separate output. It's going to come out on that 7th output. So, just plug this into a mixer quick. It doesn't always sound like it's perfect, but that's just more a function of the chord we happen to be playing at the time, right? But it's certainly in key with everything else, which is great. And the nice thing is too that this lead is it starts at the volt per octave that's already going in here, so you don't have to, like, if you're wanting to play in the key of D or whatever, you don't have to necessarily, you can just start at, as if you were playing in the key of C or whatever, and send this in here and it will quantize it automatically, and you don't need to worry about voltage offsets or stuff. So, and then of course, like, now I'm minor. And then now it sounds like garbage because I'm nothing. So that's a reason to do the triad. If I were to turn that off, now you can hear if I take the 7th out, it's still in the mix. So it's not fully separate. If you wanted to just have one single output that would do this, that's great, then that'll work. But if you want to actually be able to change this around or use this truly polyphonically, you'll want triad mode turned on for this. Because I could take this now, for instance, and let's instead of just going straight into the mixer, let's do something more interesting with this. Let's put it into a VCA up here. And for the sake of argument, so I can also show it off, I'm going to put it into this guy up here, which is, I got a replacement for my lo-fi junkie, which is also a lo-fi junkie. Hey Cameron, thanks for dropping by. None of the cameras are really set up for it particularly, but it is a pedal form, so I don't need to keep messing around with this in Eurorack form. But the cool thing I've been starting to do is this. Maybe on this camera. Started 3D printing a little insert for the IntelliGel cases that slides into the side, into one of the slots, and then gives you like a little holdy spot to hold the pedal in up at the top of the case here. It's still very, very much prototype, like it doesn't have any support at all, and I need to work on figuring out how to make it so that it doesn't flex too much and whatnot, and how I can actually get a heavy pedal like the RV500 into this. But I think this is going to be perfect because, like I said, it just slots right in up here, and then my pedal drops nicely in there. Here, see it better. Yeah, now I don't have to reach way the hell out of the way. It's quite nice. So we're putting that through, and then we'll go out to the mixer from there. It still flexes too much to press too hard on it. So let's turn it on. Let's give this an envelope of some kind. Make an envelope over here real quick with what we have remaining on stages. Very quick one. And we'll gate it with one side of marbles. So I'm going to keep working on it, and eventually once I get something that is a little more stable, I will, if any of you have a 3D printer, I'll make sure I link the file for it so that you can play with it to your heart's content. Okay, so time to figure out what we're missing here. Triad mode, so that should be good. Why are we getting no signal here? I might not be getting enough signal for the lo-fi junkie. That's okay. But there we go. So now it's fully polyphonic. I'm playing, it's the same module, but I can sequence these things completely separately and still have them remain in key in the same space that it took for telharmonic, which I love. I think this has been a very, very good change for me. But that's not all. So the other things that you can do with this, we already did this melody mode, but then there's also the free poly and the unison poly mode. So let's sort of set up something to do that, which in this case we'll try the vector sequencer for here. So we're gonna need, I think part 5 is my part that has chords, yes. And we need to make sure that all of the outputs are still set up. 5 voice 1, part 5 voice 2, this needs to be. And gate. And this can be. Part 5 voice 2, was it? Voice 3. Okay, so now we got 4, 5, and 6 outputs here that should be an actual chord. So we will put this in the next mode. So green mode is free poly mode, which is where you can tune every note individually. We don't really want that. We want unison, or wait, sorry, not harmonics mode. That's free poly mode. Don't really want that. Really want unison poly mode. They're all tuned together. But so volt per octave controls root, then lead controls third, voicing controls fifth, and quality controls seventh, just to be really confusing. But let's start patching this up. So you can barely see the jacks, so that's good. So we want one of these for the root, which is probably part 1. Which is on jack 5, can go into the volt per octave. And then we can take part 6 into the third, which is the lead input. And then we can take our last voice and put that into voicing, which is the 5th. So, supposedly, if we run this now, so I got this weird sequence of C major, G major, G major, B flat major, a couple of other things. Let's see what this does. Whoa, let's not do that fast. So, perfect. And now the other cool thing is, if you watch, you can actually see that it automatically knows what the quality is of the chord that you're sending in and changes the LEDs appropriately, which is cool if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, like me. And you're like, what is this? Oh, it's a dominant. Okay, cool. But yeah, so I think there's a good possibility that I will use that mode a lot, just because Vector Sequencer is such a good chord sequencer. And then of course, you know, modulate the hell out of waveform and things like this. And I wonder if voicing even does anything. Yeah, of course, voicing and quality don't do anything in this mode because the voicing is dependent on what you're sending in, right? So, yeah, I'm sure that people would have use for the free poly mode, but it seems weird to me to have 4 oscillators polyphonically that all can be tuned independently. I guess if you were doing micro tuning or something weird like that, then that would make sense. But otherwise, at least I personally would want everything to be tuned together. But yeah, that's pretty much the chord. It is very simple, but also like for the HP and the amount of polyphony you can get out of this thing, I don't really know of many other better things, especially if you can load this up with waveforms of whatever interesting stuff you want. Oh, jeez. Oh, that's a nice one, actually. Now, the one thing I actually wonder about is, okay, so we've got this, and the triad mode is turned off, right? Or, well, turned on, rather, so that only a triad is coming out. I wonder... Well, yeah, of course, so I could... The quality in this case, in this mode, corresponds to the 7th. The quality is a volt-per octave input for the 7th, so I could sequence a melodic line on top of this. The thing being, though, that it's not going to be... Oh. Actually, what does the harmonic mode do now? Is it the same thing? Oh, no, it's different. Okay. So when it's in this polyphonic mode, apparently, it will quantize everything. So when it's off, it's completely unquantized. When it's blue, everything's quantized to major. When it's green, everything's quantized to minor. And when it's teal, everything's quantized to chromatic. So yeah, I could actually sequence, I could use this, I could use this to sequence 4 completely separate parts, or a chord with a melody line, or a 7th chord, or like, yeah, there's a lot of options for this. That's cool. I did not know that part of it until I just read it in the manual, so. Okay, I think I messed up my camera, sorry. I'm knocking things around here. I want to see if I can make this thing work with Lo-Fi Junkie. I don't know why it wasn't before. Well, this pedal was working. Don't know what I've done to it. Weird. Oh, you know what I bet it is? Oh, no, it isn't. It was powered, so... Very weird. I used this pedal just the other day, and it definitely did lo-fi-ness, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, if anyone has any idea, feel free to let me know. Definitely, as soon as I power the pedal on, you get nothing. What the heck happened? Even with the gain cranked, there's just like it cuts this. Figure that out later. How do I like the Vector? It's on your very short list. It is my favorite sequencer, and I have used at least 4 or 5 other ones. Yeah, it does almost everything I could ever want. There's only really a few things about it that are that I wish it had. Like, I wish that it had more modulation inputs, and I wish those modulation inputs could do things like transpose a track or change some of the chance parameters. But like, if you do anything that's semi-generative, I wouldn't like. It's not the greatest thing for fully generative stuff, but I mean, you don't usually use a sequencer for fully generative stuff, right? But for semi-generative, where you want like a baseline pattern, you want to be able to evolve it over time, or add chance operations to it, or things like that, this is great. Like, I'm always using the generate thing to generate a new sequence, and then I'll evolve it, or I'll add a bunch of chance to you know, pitch up and down, or skip steps, or stuff like that. And then when you add in the expander, it gives you stuff that I always find is missing from other sequencers. Like, I really love the ability to control a sequence with gates rather than like a continuous clock pulse. You know, put together a little sequence and have a semi-random gate or something from like PAMs with you know, like a Euclidean sequence or a random skip, so you don't. So the pattern feels like it sort of evolves even though it's the same notes. Yeah, I really like it, needless to say. I really like it. I would highly suggest, if you have the opportunity to get one, you do. And I honestly, unless you have a very small system, I wouldn't get it without the expander. I don't really care about the MIDI and sync stuff, but all the rest and the trigger ins and outs and all this stuff is great. And of course, for chord mode, you can barely use chord mode without the expander. So the other day, a while back, I did a stream on the drum with a drum mode, I think, too, which is pretty good. But I don't typically use drums in what I do. So. But yeah, if you have anything you want me to show you, well, you've got someone here live with it. Feel free to let me know. I'm happy to throw something together for you. I haven't used either of those actively, and Renee always intrigued me for its like the Cartesian thing, but to me that starts to stray into the what I was talking about earlier, the make noise, being a little obtuse sort of thing. Man, what the hell has happened to this pedal? Yeah, it's so I've used the Fluxus 1, I've used Marbles on its own as a sequencer, I've used like Ornament and Crime as a sequencer, I used a Pyramid, which is like the non-Eurorack version of AirMod. else have I used? I used TET as a sequencer a lot in TetraPad, but kind of better used for other things, I think. But yeah, this is one of the modules. Out of all the modules I have in my system right now, other than PAMS, which was one of the very first ones I ever got, I think this is the second longest time span of any module in my system being in my system, which is something for me because I go through modules like nobody's business half the time. So. Just gonna look for 1 second, see if I can find my other little pedal cable thing that'll give me a better result. This is actually moderately concerning. I'm kind of worried that I busted this guy. Really suck. Where did my little pedal power guy go? Looks new. 9 volts DC, that's what I thought. Bizarre. Well, we'll see. Maybe my adventure into pedal holding racks won't last long because the pedal's dead. Some weird patterns on acid mode, but okay. Nest of wires. Let's see if I can make it work with this. Man. Something about this pedal is sure dead. That really ultra sucks. Just to be sure, let me take something that's really freaking loud. Make sure it's not just a volume issue. Apologies if I blow out your eardrums. All right, well, that's super disappointing. I think the pedal's dead. I'll find someone that knows what they're doing to fix this. All right, well, happens now, because now I could switch this out of the free without unison poly mode here. Interesting, because now we're changing the voicing and waveforms on here. Some nice almost belly ones in here. Let's generate something new and see. Yeah, that definitely has a weird effect. It is kind of too bad, I think, that there wasn't enough room in here to put jacks to control the mode and all this stuff. But it does pop between them a little bit, so. But I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Chord V1, the previous one. Wow, I think it was like yay big in HP. It was huge, and I don't think I could have justified. I mean, this has additional functionality too, but I also don't think I could have justified the HP for that. It would just look too spread out. Oh, that's kind of horrible. It's nice, it's almost got a bass line going with it. I like it there. With a little bit of filtering and some reverb, that could turn out really good. Oh, I'm too frustrated about this pedal now. Man. But you know what? Where is my guitar? Put that in and that'll really tell us. Where did I put that thing? Hi, Katsuya. Thanks for stopping by. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go get my guitar and figure out what the heck's going on with this thing. One sec. Spherical wavetable navigator. 6 voices and harmony with sphere navigation wavetable. You know, I've heard a mixture of very good and very bad things about that. Some people seem to very much like it, and other people seem to think it's really crap for some reason. And I don't know. I've not been an oscillator module that I've ever really considered. But we'll see. You could could be right. Okay, one sec. I gotta get a guitar cable. I do think I am a smart person. Sometimes I wonder. You ever notice how on pedals, sometimes it says out, and sometimes it says in? You know what happens when you put them in the wrong sides? Sound doesn't come out. Whoa! Who would have guessed that? Okay, let's patch this the right way, and then... This is probably not broken. All right, here we go. Patching things the right way around. Let's do this. Oh no. Bad. I still got the guitar attached to me. Come off. Moment of truth. Ah, thank goodness. Functional. Your house has a specific indoor. I like that. Interesting because I found that the Lo-Fi Junkie has a different sound to it slightly in pedal form actually. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it is different. And of course you can't CV control the waveform and all that crap, and I never did that anyway, so overall a good trade if I could just remember to put the cables in the right direction. So slightly. Going through an attenuator. First, I'm going to take off this guitar. Just a sec. that's cool. This is just my fingers holding the plug. Okay, you. Maybe it isn't. It just has a different tone. Maybe I should use the tone knob. Definitely the Lo-Fi Junkie in pedal form has a more chunky, broken up sound, so let's see. Definitely sounds very drunken. This one's my favorite so far. This is with the Lo-Fi Junkie's depth turned up basically all the way, by the way, so it makes it really drunken. Get back in that other oh, that sounds horrible. Never mind that. Now I could take another track here from the part. So I can take part 2 from here, for instance. Do this generation and send H2 out and send that into quality. That means I can see, because I have the triad mode turned on, I can take the 7th. I think this should get quantized. It doesn't sound like it is right now. This reminds me a lot of the last stream on Odessa, where we also have the Polyphony expander for Odessa, so that can be super polyphonic, and now this can also be super polyphonic. The difference is that there's absolutely no quantizing to Odessa's calls, other than to vocal, like it is quantized to chromatic, I think, but really I could have just taken this vocal octave that I did in the pitch here, and I could just take this. Which is something in the same chord, the same idea. So yeah, I think that pretty much about sums up the cool stuff you can do with Chord. It's a really great module. You should check it out if you don't have one and you want Polyphony and don't have much room. It may not, well, I mean, I guess technically it's probably not actual Polyphony because you can't have separate waveforms per output, but they are fully independent, fully individually tunable outputs. Yeah, no problem, Vincent. So thanks for dropping by. I think I'm basically going to finish up here because that was kind of what I wanted to cover. Making this too long, so thanks everybody for watching. I'm working on a few tutorial style videos, trying to get some ideas of stuff that might be cool to show you. So be on the lookout for those, and at the very least be on the lookout for more streams.